And welcome to another episode of the Supersubs podcast, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate this on a beautiful April 11th evening here in Los Angeles, April 12th in the morning in Paris. And so we want to give everyone a very bonjour to those who are listening to us out there, the many people on our YouTube who are following us. But we just want to say, first and foremost, thank you for the subscription. Thank you for the like. Thank you for the view. But we would ask that you all, it's like sort of like one of those Wikipedia donation drives. Please ask some of your friends to watch our content. We are begging. There are a lot of podcasts out there, and not all of us can deliver the quite the level of quality insights that we do on this show. So we really appreciate it. Again, we are on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube for full episodes. I am joined tonight by Chris Wenzel and Brian Bechtel, the two Robins and Batmans on this dynamic trio. Gentlemen, how are we doing this fine evening?
We're doing great. Masters weekend just ended, one of the best weekends of the year. And we had one of the best football games of the year, if not the best, between two of the best teams in the world, Man City and Liverpool. That was awesome. So yeah, we'll get into that in a bit. But Chris, how's it going?
Yeah, it's going great. I mean, I don't have much to say as an intro besides what you said. This is exactly what I wanted to say.
Please watch our content.
Manchester City and Liverpool is a new classic. Is something different that's been out there because other classics have been more rivalries and more on not on the nice side, and this one is on the nice side. So that's something we'll break down for our viewers. And bonjour to my French aficionados. Merci de nous regarder, c'est sympa. So we appreciate it. So how are you doing, Corbin?
Je suis désolé, je ne comprends pas français. But I'm doing well otherwise. I hope all of the Frenchmen out there and French women are able to
Dude, what a show off this guy is. What are you, like, trilingual over here? Unbelievable.
It comes with the territory of being a cultured citizen of the world. But you know what? It's my cross to bear. So we're super excited to talk about this week's action in the footballing world. We're going to start with the main headliner, which was really the game of the weekend across the board. Liverpool Man City put on an absolute show. Chef's kiss. We love this game twice a year. And actually, they're going to play it again on Saturday. What an absolute thriller. 2-2 draw. One of those games you couldn't take your eye off of for like basically any amount of time. So much quality on the pitch. Chris, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, that's one of my first thoughts is that was a game that we expected for a while, and we weren't disappointed. We knew there was going to be a lot of intensity. There were going to be a lot of effective time played. And oh boy, we weren't disappointed, right? We got goals too, because sometimes you get a good confrontation and good football and you don't get goals. We got 4 of them. And really good stuff from both teams. So as a game, it was great to see, a starting of new yearly contention. This was great, in terms of the analysis of the game. I would say that it was, first of all, it was at the Etihad, so in Manchester City's home, and they had bigger opportunities than some of their forwards missed. And the first half was one-way street in terms of possession and in terms of who was controlling and dominating the game, bossing the midfield. It was Manchester City. And Liverpool was able to get a goal on one of their two opportunities. So that also shows how lethal Liverpool is. Just need few opportunities. And that's what I would say is the main difference between Man City and Liverpool at the moment, is that I would say the front three of Liverpool and also their backups, they're stronger than last season. They are more lethal than the front three of Man City, even though they are better ball player. But I'd love to know what's your take on that, Brian? What did you think?
Oh, Brian's ready to roll.
Oh, I thought it was sick action. The high pressing that both these teams do. I'm going to give Liverpool a lot of credit because I like them a lot more than Man City. They bring out the best in City because they actually will take the game to them and press them and force them to play faster. And it's really nice to watch City. You know, it's crazy that they can kind of play at any gear. You get these teams that'll park the bus on them and they'll slowly work it around and try and find an opening. And then Liverpool's trying to play out of the back and play fast, and they're high pressing them and making them turn it over. And it just created a lot of excitement, a lot of action and chances. And they were, you know, they had Liverpool's number in the first half. That it was only 2-1 was probably a bit fortunate for Liverpool. Could have been a bit worse, even though the goals or at least one of the Man City goals was a bit fluky. With the deflection from De Bruyne on the first goal, but Liverpool made the adjustment after the half and turned things around, got the goal back immediately, and then it kind of stalemated a bit in the second half, but there's just so much quality on the field. I thought Trent Alexander-Arnold was one of my personal favorites. He had the assist on the first goal for Liverpool, so kind of can't really discount that, but on the same side of things.
We had assist for Man City as well.
Yeah. His defending was poor, and so that's kind of the knock on him. Is you know, we obviously know what he can do going forward, but he was positionally poor, lost track of was it Jesus that scored the second goal?
Yeah.
In the first half, and he had a couple other just didn't look very comfortable defending, really losing runs, and so that's kind of the Jekyll and Hyde you get with him, but I still think he's worth it, and I'd certainly have him in my England squad 100% of the time. But yeah, no, I mean, it was just an awesome game, and title race is still kind of wide open, even though City's got the 1-point lead still.
Let me just underline something that Brian said, which is that Liverpool brings out the best in Man City. I think, Brian, of all your soccer points in the history of time, that's one of the better ones. I found that to be true consistently every time I watch this game. City is like watching paint dry. My face is literally melting when they play half of the Premier League. It's like they've got 95% of the possession and the rest of the team just bunkers down for 90 minutes of Atletico Madrid style defending. And I hate that. I hate as a neutral to watch that. Finally, when a team actually plays at their level and pace, they have to elevate their game. And I actually love watching City when those moments happen because Kevin De Bruyne is sweet. I thought Gabriel Jesus was very active. I thought that the way City moved the ball was excellent. The pressing from both teams is elite. Coming from El Tráfico to that game was such a pleasant experience for me as well. So I thoroughly enjoyed the football that I watched for those 90 minutes.
What did you think about Phil Foden? I thought he was pretty good too.
Oh, well, you're.
You weren't impressed with him, actually.
I thought he was great. I like Foden.
Very unconvincing. He was great.
He's great. I mean, everybody on City is great, though. I mean, really, I thought they were all excellent. They play so cohesively as a team that I enjoy them only when they're forced to play. And so I think
you're out here, Corbin. Foden on that game, he kind of was brought down a couple of notch to his level that we saw against Atletico. Because he started as a winger and he's much more effective as a super sub, as we all know on this podcast. I like him much better, like next to De Bruyne, and when they combine together. Oh wait, isn't that how they scored the goal against Atletico? Oh yes, that's how they did. And then he can like go towards the pitch, but again, I'm sorry, maybe I'm picking on him, but he's not accurate in front of goal. He'll miss a lot of opportunities that I think a player of his talent, he'll probably correct that. I hope he'll correct that. If he doesn't, I would prefer to have him as a number 8.
That was a great 30-second take, by the way. I thought that was brilliant. I agree 100%. Now, Brian, would you put him in your England squad starting lineup? Foden?
Yes, of course, 100%.
Okay, so you
I don't want to watch them put 11 guys behind the ball again. Let's get after it, Gareth.
I will say that. So what he needs most specifically, Gareth, needs Trent Alexander-Arnold, who I also hated defending in this game. I thought he was super poor, but if England's going to put all 11 behind the ball, they need somebody who with a little attacking invention, and he so over indexes for that. I thought the assist was so composed to pull it back. That's usually not a right back move. And so I thought that level of composure showed his class, but there were times defending, I go, is this guy even, does he even know where he is? He was caught consistently. Man City had that run, the diagonal run, the cross-field diagonal run, which they hit Liverpool on like 5 or 6 times over the course of the game, and it worked every time. And it was just because they have somebody falling asleep on the wing. It wasn't always Alexander-Arnold. Sometimes it was Robertson, and but they hit him all the time. And I thought that was a result of the lack of communication or lack of quality on the wings.
Slightly exaggerating. At this point, I think Ousmane Dembele defends better than Trent Alexander-Arnold. And I think it's just a question of focusing. He's capable of, like, on the goal, it's just like lack of awareness and lack of like, oh, it's okay, Alisson will get that. No. And that's, sorry to bring that back to a French guy. But
that was another great 30-second one, by the way.
I love talking about
Dembele too. Super good.
But
I was catchy. And by the way, I totally agree. Despite the hyperbole, I think it's a matter of focus for him.
Yeah, it's a matter of focus.
Those kind of mistakes always are. They feel like it's not a skill thing. It's just a mindset piece.
Yeah, and also like I don't know if you say that correctly in English, but the lucidity aspect, which is basically if you run more and high intensity, then you lose your ability to make the right decision. And I think for him, like, because he runs so fast on both sides of the pitch, he basically in defense he tries to recover, and unfortunately against Manchester City, when you defend, you can't recover. So I think that's why, unfortunately, I'll never start for England, because Gareth Southgate is a defender and he doesn't park one buses. He parks all the London metropolitan buses and all the parks in Wembley to bunker. So and also, like, I don't know, like, Walker is fast and he defends better. So
I thought Kyle Walker had some very nice plays.
I know
defensively.
I know.
Defensively.
Because like last year when they played like Mbappe against him, like honestly, that was the first time I saw like a defender being almost capable of go to the speed of Mbappe. And at the time last year, Mbappe, only the few tricks he had in the books was speed, and now it's gotten better. So I would have loved to see the matchup, but fortunately, we'll have to see. There is always next year.
We can play that matchup in FIFA, Chris. Don't worry.
Well, that could be maybe in the World Cup.
Yeah, that's one of the insults of Marseillais. So big rivalry in France is Paris Saint-Germain, Marseille, even though it's a made-up rivalry by the media. Is that in France, the only team that won the Champions League so far is Marseille in 1993, even though there is some things about them cheating and buying off referee, but we'll put that aside. And they say, Paris Saint-Germain, the only way you can win the Champions League is at the PlayStation.
Oh, that's sort of true.
For the time being, that's true.
But I would just say I also thought Kevin De Bruyne is excellent. He's my favorite player on City by far.
What do you think of Raheem Sterling?
This is like Brian throwing me an alley-oop. I hate that guy. He actually had, what's great? His finish, it was called offsides barely, but it was actually a superb finish.
Yeah, no, it didn't count.
I know, and it didn't count. And also he blew one earlier in the game too. He just doesn't. Speaking of finishers, he's a worse finisher than Foden. I find he gets more chances and does less with them. So he's never someone, but also you sort of know who he is. For me, that's Raheem Sterling in a nutshell. I thought that was a very Raheem Sterling game, which is some threat attacking, but ultimately no closure.
Yeah. Can't finish.
That's one thing I don't like about Raheem Sterling is that he has a tendency to fall on the floor very quickly. And one thing he's changed from last year is that he doesn't beg as much for a penalty anymore. And that's also, as much as I love Jack Grealish, is also one of the things Jack Grealish tends to do. He gets a lot of PKs, but like he tends to fall on the floor very quickly. But he's a much better player. Yeah. Raheem Sterling, he's got speed, and like exactly the finishes is not there. So but yeah, we got our shots there. But that's a granted starter for the Free Lions. So and they'll win the World Cup, right?
Yeah, can't wait for that. By the way, on the Liverpool side, first of all, I loved the pressing from both teams in this game, but I thought Thiago was particularly useful to outlet and release pressure on a lot of those. For the first half, I thought Liverpool was completely out of sorts in the back, but there were some really amazing moments where Thiago outletted pressure or was able to get out of tight situations. That I thought was world-class to me. Even though Matip was responsible for the first goal on the deflection, I thought he was excellent. I thought Van Dijk settled very well in the second half. To me, I don't think I learned anything new about either of these teams, while at the same time enjoying the entire 90 minutes.
Yeah, I agree. Van Dijk definitely grew into the game. He was poor. I think he was actually kind of poor in the first half, which is surprising to see. But they were poor just with their whole execution and trying to pass out of the back. It got him into trouble way too many times. So it's kind of funny that you can't really make that adjustment until halftime, but thank God they did, because then after that, they really settled into things. Also, I think Matip was the one that kept Jesus on side too, even though Trent lost his guy. So maybe at fault for 2 goals there, Bernie.
I thought he played well though. Now that Chris pointed him out from the last episode, I was actually watching him specifically. I think he has become an excellent defender. Yes. Whereas before I thought he was very average. Exactly. His positioning play, his ball play has improved dramatically for me.
Yeah. The first half, Matip was much better besides that mistake on the goal, keeping him on side. He's not as fast as Van Dijk, but as I said last time, having Klopp brought Konate, because last year when Van Dijk got injured and off the season, basically was over for Liverpool's title chance and even barely made it to the Champions League 4th spot. And Matip since then, you get competition and he's gotten better. One thing is not as speedy, but ball plays improved so much and the dominance, and he wasn't using his physicality as much, I thought. And he was really the best center back for me of Liverpool for the first half, and second half was a solid performance too. One thing I'd like to add is that, I've been a big proponent of Jordan Henderson, but you also have to recognize when he's not having a good game. And as exactly what you mentioned, Brian, is the only one for the first half that was keeping them afloat in the middle of the park and trying to play make and just create something was Thiago. And he was lonely. Jordan Henderson was really bad. He wasted long balls, and he got the balls. He looked a bit shaky. And Thiago was the only one creating things, and he could have been sent off for a second yellow, and he got a bit lucky on that one. But the club didn't want to take him out because he was the only one creating things in the middle of the park. As the other Naby Keita, when he came in, was okay, was decent, but not as good. That's one thing very quickly, is that Thiago, with all the injuries, you can see, it's taken a big toll on him. And I could just imagine the kind of player he could even be, to couple of world-class level without all the injuries he had.
I agree. And by the way, 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Thiago's great. What was it? I forgot. I was gonna say is that when Keita came in, this is a game where if you aren't quite at the level required, you get exposed really quickly. Just the difference in Naby Keita is a pretty good player, but him receiving a pass and his touch compared to a Thiago or basically anyone on Man City, you see it immediately. And unfortunately, he looked a step behind basically the rest of the guys out there, except for maybe Henderson. Yeah, he was poor too.
Quickly, while we wrap up this game, any final thoughts around what this means for the title race?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll do it quick. So it's the end of the season. So that's what in French we call a very tight end of the season. So money time, which is supposed to be an English thing, but that's actually no one uses in England or in the US. So that's funny. And basically, the whole thing here is that those teams will meet again this weekend for the semi-final of the FA Cup. And this will have big implications psychologically because there will need to be a winner and a loser this weekend, unlike this tie that ended up as a draw. And that might lead to one way or the other then for the rest of the season, since we came out with the same difference, 1 point ahead of Man City. Looking at the upcoming schedule, Man City has a clear advantage in terms of the competition they will face. Liverpool will have to face Tottenham. And I missed another team that also, I think the best team City will face is West Ham. And so I think the advantage is to City, but they might meet also again in Champions League should both teams make it to the semi-final. And that will be another couple of times they will meet each other. And so for me, that's why those three potential upcoming ties will have big implications. Even for the teams that come out of them winning, they might come out a bit arrogant and think like, oh, they dominate the other team and then they will make it. And they might just losing some points to Crystal Palace or a team that has been playing well at home. So that's what I would say in terms of what's upcoming for this Battle of England.
Oh, Brian, before you give your final thoughts, let me just read Liverpool's next 4 games. They play Benfica on Wednesday in Champions League. Then they play City in the FA Cup. Then they play Manchester United next on the 19th. And then most importantly, Everton on the 24th.
Oh, what a setup, dude. Everton that plays every good team left except for Man City. Yeah.
Anyway, Brian, final thoughts?
7:30 a.m. I think is the Saturday kickoff. So a bit tough for us here on the West Coast. Colburn, you will for sure be sleeping, but I will fill you in on that game.
For the French, actually, it's prime time where most of our audience is. So it depends on who you're talking to.
That's right. And I'm an early riser, so 6 a.m. I will be there. And he will also be woken up by our text. So unless you turn off the notifications.
I usually mute Brian no matter what. So, but anyway.
No, let's talk Everton though. They had a big win.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk Everton and then we'll move on to La Liga. So last week, for those who haven't seen this on our podcast, Brian spent a good 5 minutes, which we haven't clipped yet, but we will for you listeners, absolutely laying into Everton, saying they have no chance. They're not going to win a single game in this coming stretch. And Everton comes out there and delivers a 1-0 dub.
Dude, I'm like the jinx on this show.
Right in Brian's face.
Yeah, I can't make any hot takes. Whenever I say anything, they just cut Ajax. Now I'm going to anti-jinx Everton. They beat me. It's one of the luckiest goals I've ever seen in my life. They beat them 1-0, but they had to have it. They need any wins that they can get going down the stretch because I went over the schedule last week, but it is difficult. So 3 points.
I really hope
3
they
points.
do get relegated. It's all the players on their team and they stink.
Oh, the absolute shame if they did. Every player, their best starting lineup. Every guy that's out there. It's crazy.
Oh, Van de Beek, who's injured and just welcomed his first child, which I didn't know, with the daughter of Dennis Bergkamp. So there will be a kid in 18 years. That will be a genius.
Wow. Deep knowledge there. Nice.
He'll probably play for Everton as well.
I
No,
hope for
that'd
him
be a
not.
shame.
That
He
will be
better
a
be better
very
than that.
unsuccessful career.
Oh, that's
he needs to be more.
hilarious.
He needs to be more Bergkamp and less Van de Beek.
All right. Well, let's move on and let's move to La Liga, where Barcelona comes up huge at the death to beat Levante 3-2. So I watched the highlights of this game. I did not watch this game. Let me just say the highlights were crazy. So I don't know, Brian or Chris, if you actually caught this game, but my God, there was a lot to talk about.
I caught the highlights too. Yeah. We'll probably say it every week, but Pedri is some kind of a player. I just can't believe that he's still at 18 or 19 or wherever he is. He's going to be all time for sure. But yeah, I mean, he's awesome, and I believe I saw a Frenchman with maybe an assist out there. Chris, did you happen to catch that?
Who was that?
Yeah, you're talking about Ousmane Dembele. I think
he
had 11 assists in 14 games. That's a lesser amount of games than Karim Benzema in making those 11 assists. So, and only 10 starts. So that's pretty sweet. Yeah, Pedri's great, but I've heard comparison of being compared to the new Messi. But he plays as a 8. It's more like a mix of Xavi and Iniesta. So I didn't understand that just because he was dribbling and making nutmegs, like Iniesta were doing that with like Roqueta.
That's because people are stupid, Chris. That's the answer to that.
That might be them.
It's probably an English pundit.
Yeah, but you know, one thing on the game though is that I would say that Barcelona look tired with like playing every 3 days. Even we saw that against Eintracht Frankfurt on Thursday. Even though they have good turnover, as I explained before, basically Dembele, when he starts, he does 60 minutes. Then Traoré comes in, he does 30, and then the next game is the opposite. The other one swaps. And Levante is fighting for relegation. So that's something we would not particularly understand in the US, but since they're fighting for relegation, well, they play against Barcelona like they were fighting for Champions League, or it was like a big matchup. And they got awarded several penalties. One of them was probably one of the fastest record of coming on the pitch and 2 minutes later conceding a PK. I'm talking about my other fellow Frenchman, Clément Lenglet.
That's hilarious.
This is the only Frenchman you actually don't like, I think.
Yeah, because I'm a big fan of Samuel Umtiti too. Who's ruined the dreams of my fellow Belgian friends in semi-final of the World Cup. But Clément Lenglet, I think, he even at Sevilla, I think he was decent. And when he started against like the first year at Barcelona, I thought he was okay. But I never thought like, oh, that guy is outstanding. And I honestly didn't really understand why he was even called up for France. But like now I'm not understanding. It went from like he was okay to like it's a disaster.
He's awful.
Confidence.
He's been awful though, Chris. I think we would say like even from last year. I would say from 2 years ago, I think he's been terrible. Poor, I should say.
Last year, yes. 2 years ago, I would say he was fine, but like
he has so Lenglet, I've got nothing against him on this podcast, but he has always been soft, and he has embodied the softness of Barcelona in when they've struggled most. I think him and PK together have been the Charmin double ply combo in the back of defense.
He's been soft, but now he's like super mega soft. Like just like I see the highlight of this France Switzerland where like Seferovic basically climbed on top of him and he looks like him like a child that you got his lunch taken, which is awful. But he looks like not even fighting or not even like go to the referee. Like, hey, he jumped on me, like nothing, no reaction, like, oh, he just beat me at physicality. Okay. No reaction. No, like this. So yeah, I think Umtiti has like a better chance to claim a spot in that lineup, even though everyone likes Ronald Araujo. He's grown on me, but he's no Jules Koundé, he's no Diego Carlos, he's no Militao Alaba in my point, but and he has a release clause of $1 billion now.
Oh, that's right.
That's like
Ronald Araujo.
He's a $1 billion release clause.
$1 billion.
Does he actually?
So yeah, but you know how it works in Spain. So the release clause, the way it works, it's not the price you must pay to get the player. It's the price you must pay. Then Barca doesn't have any say. So like for example, you come and like Barca and like you're like, okay, I'm gonna buy him for 100 million, even though the release clause is 1 billion. Then Barca would have to come to the table.
Yeah.
So that's what happened with Neymar. They put like an outrageous release clause, and they're like, oh, no one's gonna pay 222 million. They paid 222 million, and PSG didn't have to negotiate with Barca because they paid the release clause. So that's how it works. That's why like Ansu Fati has.
So we're gonna make this like impossibly high.
Yes, every player is $1 billion clause now.
Now they do. Yeah, that's hilarious. We've learned our lesson.
Yeah,
you will not touch this.
So real quickly, we're going to wrap up this game. Brian, I'll give you 30 seconds. And then Chris, I'm going to give you 30 seconds for Ousmane Dembele.
All right.
On this Barcelona game?
Yeah. Yes.
I don't really have much more to add. Dembele, sick crossing, and Pedri. That's all I got. Future Barcelona.
Oh yeah, I love all of that. I agree with that. Chris?
Yeah, Dembele is, in my opinion, the best assist maker in the world. He's left the dribbling antics back to the locker room. Xavi has changed his game, and now anytime he's an old-style winger, anytime he sees a half space, he crosses it and he finds Aubameyang, and usually you find the ball at the back of the net.
He's not hurt anymore, too.
Was that great? Yeah. He's not hurt anymore. By the way, I thought that ball was beautiful. It's funny. The beautiful angle is great. So I have nothing to add. I think I told you on our text, I thought he was not my favorite player for a long time, but he couldn't be more informed. So I think he's excellent, and maybe he rides that form through to the winter. So I
think even your boy behind you would have been burying those goals too. Big Chiro.
Oh, he put that on.
He lives for chances like that.
He's like,
oh yes, does he ever? And you know what, Brian? Thank you for bringing that up, because it's a perfect transition. We're going to move to Serie A, and I think the most important headline for us in Serie A is that Atalanta loses again, and have now dropped
the most important.
They've now dropped to 8th in Serie A. So the problem is we're going in the wrong direction, and I don't really.
You're gonna need to find a new city to live in.
Although Duvan Zapata is back in training, thank God. So he's finally back in training for the first time in like 161 days or something I was reading. So they need him. They need goals. They're in shambles here. But I think, Chris, you wanted to touch on Milan.
Yeah, Milan, while they've had a great stretch of form, they are now dipping in form a little bit. My big boy, Olivier
2 straight draws.
Yeah, 2 straight draws against like very smaller team, I would say. Olivier Giroud not finding the back of the net. Theo Hernandez dipping in form, and Franck Kessié is already, as I've said already, but like it's even clearer. His head is clearly at Barca. Benacer is not capable of running the midfield, and Makers. So like if you don't have the middle of the park working, so you have your engine not working properly, and you had also like the great Cinderella story with that Brazilian player, that was great, but he's a super sub. He's not a starter, and now he's starting. So that's a bit of a problem. They're still in contention, but they are losing their gap since Inter is coming back and they still have a game in hand. So this will be a very tight Scudetto race. No, sorry, Panini.
Mm-hmm.
So Panini,
Scudetto.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, Scudetto, Chris.
Scudetto.
Yeah.
My bad. Yeah, because like that's one thing we say so in French. We say like the food, the panini. It's like I have a panini is incorrect because the e is like plural, so you have two when you have one. And so that's why I was trying to make in my head. So if you say scudetti, is when you won several like Juve. So Juve is out of contention, even though you never discount Juve in the Finnish sprint. But that would be exciting to see who comes up because I don't have a favorite. So Corbin, you are the expert for Serie A. Who's your favorite for that sprint? I know it's a tough question to answer.
No, so it's always been Inter. I've been on record saying this for a long time. I think Inter is the best team. I think ultimately their quality will shine through. Now, if I look at the top three, one, let me just point out that actually the biggest result of the weekend to me, besides the draw of Milan-Torino, was actually Fiorentina beating Napoli. That was a massive result for Fiorentina, but more importantly, a horrific loss for Napoli. Fun fact for everyone at home: Napoli have lost 6 contests in this Serie A season, and 5 of them have been at home. And that is pretty crazy to me, especially because you would. Siri. Speaking of Siri.
Whoa. Is Siri in the Neapolitan? What's going on over there?
Siri has problems with that. But let me just say this. Napoli at 66 points, Inter at 66 points, and AC Milan at 68 points with an extra game played. I think this is going to be a very nice photo finish for the first time in a while. I'm looking forward to this. I'm very excited for this, but my call is Inter. Brian?
Yeah, it's got to be Inter. They're certainly the favorites, although I don't think that any of these teams are that elite. So it's totally wide open, and I could see it being any of them. I'd like to see Napoli. I feel like with some of the seasons that they've had in the last 5 years or so, that they probably deserved to have won a Scudetto. So it would be nice to see if they could somehow eke one out. Like, do they get to play Inter or any of these top teams again?
Oh, let's
I feel like they've probably got to be due to play Inter. Inter.
Okay, so their final schedule down the stretch. Next weekend they host Roma. That'll be a big one. Then they play Empoli, Sassuolo, Torino, Genoa, and Spezia. That's a pretty nice finish. No Inter. At the same time, let's check on Inter Milan.
They've got the game in hand. Yeah.
They do have the game in hand. They play at Spezia. They host Roma at the end of the month, at Bologna, at Udinese, Empoli, Cagliari, Sampdoria. They should cruise. Those are not.
They should, but all of these teams, you would look at a schedule like that and say they should cruise, and none of them have been running away with it. So
that's true.
I'm rooting for Napoli. That's the Diego Armando Maradona.
And just to highlight the remaining schedule for AC Milan, Genoa, Lazio, Fiorentina, Hellas Verona, Atalanta. That's a big one. Sassuolo.
They've got the hardest run in by far.
Yeah, they do have the hardest run. So that's why my choice is Inter. Any final thoughts, Brian, before we move on?
Nope, that's it.
Wonderful. So clean. And Chris, let's move on to Ligue 1. And the only team that we ever talk about, Olympique Lyonnais.
We can talk about Olympique Lyonnais if you want all day long. We can talk about all the teams of Ligue 1. I won't take the title of expert. I won't shy away from Ligue 1 expert for sure.
I think there's a particular team you'd like to discuss.
Okay, you're talking about Paris Saint-Germain.
The nouveau riche of
yeah, nouveau riche. I think the headline would start with too little, too late. So they play basically someone promoted from Ligue 2 Clermont that's actually playing ball. They're trying to play. Or typically, when you get promoted, you anchor down and bunker your way and try to counterattack and fight for keeping yourself in the top flight. And no, they're playing. And that's what happened. And at home, they were playing. And unfortunately, they got beaten at their own game. But like if they would have anchored down, this game would have finished maybe 1-0, or even Paris Saint-Germain would not even have been able to break down that block. So Paris Saint-Germain, and Messi was on fire with a sweet assist with control of the chest and straight through ball to Mbappe. So a hat trick for Mbappe, a hat trick for Neymar.
Great.
Yeah,
That's
great.
what they should be doing to all of these league.
That's exactly that. So that's
they should be putting these guys to the sword.
We're in April, and that's the first time they're starting to do that, to dominate the league, where it's too late. They should be doing that week in and week out against all the teams in Ligue 1, and I would expect like a tougher contention with Olympique Lyonnais, Olympique de Marseille, Stade Rennais, and that's pretty much it. They should run over every all the other Monaco maybe. So, and they haven't. And now their excuse is like, it takes time to get chemistry, and now Messi's happy, and it's important to be happy, and you leave a place that's almost, he wasn't born there, but like that's where he lived.
I know you're not buying it either.
What are you not buying, dude? Messi is so temperamental.
Can I just say this? This game, in terms of a stat guy, is as nice as you get. Neymar hat trick, Mbappe hat trick, Messi 3 assists. Sick.
Tight.
That's what they need.
That's FIFA shit.
I'm waiting until April 11th for this to happen, Chris. So it was nice that it happened.
I know. I was expecting this like the second that Messi stepped on the pitch with these guys.
In terms of record, I forgot exactly what's the record. If Messi's tying the record of having multiple hat-trick assists in a season, or if he's actually the first one to do so.
I think it was the first one. Yeah.
He's done that against Saint-Etienne in a snowy game, which was one of the 5 games Sergio Ramos played. And he played in that game too, because Kimpembe was injured. Too little, too late.
It's a shame.
Paris Saint-Germain season will close down next weekend, which will be Le Classique, which is referred to Le Classico also, between Paris Saint-Germain and Marseille. Will be at Parc des Princes. The first game in Marseille was awful to watch. It was a 0-0. Not many, and Mbappe was not flying at the time. And so I'm expecting a big performance. All the fans of Paris Saint-Germain are expecting, and after that, there is Strasbourg, Lens, and the only thing that will keep is like Mbappe trying to beat records and finish first in the Golden Boot, at least in France in Ligue 1, and also breaking the record of most assists in Ligue 1, which I believe is 17, and I believe he's at 11 or 12. So if he's keep going on that path, he'll break, and he wants to break records. So that's the only thing that will be until the end of the season. So yeah, that's pretty much it I wanted to say about this Paris Saint-Germain,
Brian? Well, if Messi is starting to be happier, so am I. So that's huge for us. I don't know. It's just nice to see him actually, contributing for them. It's been a disappointment for sure. Are they out of the cups too, Chris?
Yeah, they got beaten by Nice.
Both of them?
No, there is only one cup. They stopped doing a League Cup because they couldn't find the broadcaster to pay enough money to make it happen.
Wow.
But honestly, like, the League Cup is useless. I mean, the only point for the League Cup is so that you're able to play the youth. You're able to play the younger player. That's the only reason, honestly. And so they changed the rules of French Cup, where basically after 90 minutes, you go straight to penalties, where before you had extra time. And basically Nice came to Parc des Princes and they hunkered down. And Nice, they have a good team. young with Amin Gouiri, Andy Delors, Dolberg, Lemina, Justin Kluivert, Calvin Stengs. So they have enough to play offense, but they play defense so that they go to penalty. And Xavi Simons missed his penalty. And so that will be the first time in 8 seasons that they don't win the French Cup.
And RIP to the Coupe de la Ligue.
Yeah, Coupe de la Ligue. Like a lot of people, said it was bullshit, but like when you win it, like you should have seen in Saint-Etienne and even Marseille, which was their first title in like 10 years, like they were like celebrating like they won the Champions League. I'm not even exaggerating.
Trophies are trophies, just ask Tottenham.
Yeah, some French players, some really good French players, like Jérôme Roten, that went to a final of Champions League against a beginner as a head coach named José Mourinho, and a really good Portuguese team that was coached by Didier Deschamps, lost 3-0 in final at Schalke 04. And he didn't win anything besides the League Cup. So, and he still has that to his palmarès, and he's the co-holder of the most assists in a, and right now he has a show in France, and so he's like, please, Kylian Mbappé, don't beat my record.
Well, we'll see. He might.
Yeah.
Well, please stay tuned. If there's any podcast out there that does PSG better than we do, I'd like to see it, because there's no way. We dominate PSG, and specifically you dominate PSG, Chris. So with that, we'll keep that in mind going forward. Speaking of the French league, though, is Infantino has some crazy ideas about improved play. Chris, do you want to enlighten our audience about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So very quickly, in terms of rundown of what happened. So Gianni Infantino, who's the FIFA chairman or president, I don't know exactly his title. So a former Swiss banker, I believe, or lawyer that has moved to Qatar, actually, with his whole family.
Really?
Yeah, that's
that's like, hilarious. What are the chances of that?
How crazy.
That is so wild. Of every country he could have moved to, I don't believe that.
Yeah, the center of decision has moved to the Middle East in football. That's where the money's at, like that's where the Super Copa de España is.
FIFA is the most clean organization I've ever seen.
It's been played. And so, so he moved, I think, like a year or a couple of years ago with families, and like they go to school and they like it.
I hope Qatar gets absolutely smashed in this World Cup, I have to say. I hope they get buried by their group. Senegal, the Netherlands, I'd like them to put Qatar to the sword, figuratively speaking, of course.
Of course. And those will be the teams that would potentially confront the US in the round of 16. So, or you could have Qatar go.
Chris, we can't get ahead of ourselves.
Chris, we have a lot of wood to chop.
All right. So back to the overview. So the president of the French Federation, Noël Le Graët. Noël means Christmas, and Le Graët, it could be the Great. So the joke is he's called Christmas the Great. He's a former politician from Bretagne.
Perfect.
From Guingamp, actually. And so Guingamp was playing in a Ligue 2 game, and Noël Le Graët decided to invite Infantino, and Infantino went to watch a Ligue 2 game. And at halftime, he had an interview with the broadcaster, and he come out with so it looks like we're lucky that he's looking to give up on a World Cup every 2 years.
Excellent.
So that's excellent. One of his things is that, okay, we'll organize then a World Cup of clubs in the year when there is nothing, or there's supposed to be rest, or we make the World Cup every 3 years, which hopefully will die too. And so his new thought was, hey, there is not as much effective play. Like a team like Atletico, they play maybe 55 minutes of effective play. And to him, that was the reason why, one of the reasons why there is a disinterest of the fans for the game. And while I would say there is some truth about like there is a lot of time wasting, and Atletico is one of the teams that does this the best. Increasing the time won't necessarily change; they waste more time, and also that poses the initial hypothesis is that isn't it the soul of this game? Isn't it part of also the little bit of the trickery from the Latins to waste some time or not?
So you have only to make the Latins, Chris.
Yes, only the Latin thinks that way and thinks that's part of the game and the soul. And me, I would say I'm half Latin and half Anglo-Saxon. So to me, I hate that part. But I would like to remind everyone that a lot of people say, "Oh, Maradona, hand of God, this is great. Look at so genius." No, they would have been VAR. This would have never happened. They would have never won. I mean,
they would have zoomed in on his hand and be like, "Got you!"
Yeah,
like a traffic stop.
Yeah, they still would have beat England. Come on.
Every time someone tells me like VAR sucks, there is a GIF about him. There is a GIF now. There is a GIF about the hand of God. Like, here you go. This would have been disallowed, and they never reply back to you after that. It's like VAR sucks. Okay, GIF of Maradona, hand of God. Okay, there you go. But back to so either you think the soul of the game is this part of the game to trick, and I don't think it is. But then what can you do? It's not a correct solution in my mind. What I think they should be doing is they should be tough against anti-sportive conduct. And what is anti-sportive conduct is that they should tell all the referee every time there is a counter attack, regardless of if it's stopped by a foul, regardless of it's a big foul, dangerous foul, and everything, straight yellow card. No discussion, yellow card. Each time you interrupt the counter attack by fouling your opponent, yellow card. Anytime you put yourself in front of the ball, yellow card. Like for example, I forgot Raúl Jiménez. I don't know if he got a second yellow by being in front of the ball and putting his feet for he got a second yellow. But to me, he should have gotten a second yellow for just not just like deflecting a pass of that free kick, but just for being in front of the ball, because that's so that this team can go back to defense. And for me, if you do that, that's 3 yellow cards, even if the team is not in other games, like in handball, when the referee whistles, you have to put the ball on the floor. If you don't, 2 minutes out. So I'm not saying the game should change and like do temporary exclusion, but you should get yellow cards. That's one thing. If you want to do trickery, every time someone wastes time on the throw-in, yellow card. And don't hesitate if it's a second yellow. That's how you make them play. If you want them to have more effective play, that's my solution. What do you guys think? I'd love to hear from you, because I know we might disagree on that, since I have a very half Latin Anglo-Saxon text. So I'd love to hear what you guys think.
I'm fired up, Chris. Chris for president. Screw Gianni. Living in Qatar. Are you freaking kidding me? What a bunch of bullshit. I think some of that stuff's great. I don't know how much what you could think about like retroactive punishment too, going back and looking at some of that stuff afterwards if the ref were to miss it. Because I think that'd be another area where, if the ref, can't make a clear decision during the game, but it's pretty obvious afterwards that, he got fooled or tricked, that you would just retroactively give yellows too. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't need to be that complicated. There's just not a consensus or anything that is in place for the refs to be firm with that, or they must not be getting the direction to do it. I always think it's really easy for fans to sit around and criticize the refs in all sports, but typically they're given instructions about how to officiate and referee the games, and they're very obviously they must not be getting any direction to be giving out yellows like that in these situations that Chris is describing. So Yeah, I think that's an obvious one to me. I'd fully support.
I fully support as well. I completely agree with Brian here. I think
You'd vote for Chris for president too.
Yeah, 100%. As long as Chris, you don't move to Qatar.
Ooh.
No, I won't be moving to Qatar. But as you were saying, like for example, I don't know if you noticed. So I mean, obviously you notice because it's like almost stupid. Like each time the referee, when there is a penalty kick, he goes talking to the goalkeeper and he does like this. You don't hear him anytime, but he does like this, which is like, you keep your feet. You need to have at least 1 foot on the line when the ball is kicked. And so that came from a rule where like the goalkeeper, like I remember, Sech was almost on the goal kick line before the penalty was taken. So he closed down the gap. And so they took them 10 years to make that rule. But now it's like stupid. Like you didn't have your feet like right on the line. So the penalty kick needs to be retaken. So
which I hate that rule, by the way.
Yeah, it makes it.
But
you let him cheat and just encroach.
Well, no, I mean, I think with anything, it's about the balance of moderation, and I do think that they actually, I think they've corrected it better now. I think recently I haven't seen as many egregious incidents of this. So
well, that's because the goalies have started to figure it out. You have to be whenever you put a rule in place like that, it's so much easier when it's black and white. I know it gets frustrating because you'll see a guy and he'll have like, you know, a millimeter of his boot on the line, but that fixes the behavior. These goalies don't do that anymore.
Yeah, but some of the goalkeeper now, they sit behind the goalkeeper behind the line because they're scared. And for me, you should be able to start on the line. And if for me, it's like so that's one thing that I would say I have antagonist opinion. Like for offside, if you're offside by 1 millimeter, you're offside by 1 millimeter. I know we might disagree on that, but for me, you're offside, you're not offside. On the goalkeeper, like who cares? Like as long as you're not like 3 meters in advance, as long as you don't exaggerate, that's fine. If you're like 50 centimeters a meter, that's fine. Now it's over exaggerating. So it's go from one extreme to the other.
I think it's easier when it's black and white. Offside, same thing.
And and so is honestly, and so is life, Brian. Life is so much easier in black and white.
There's no gray area in life at all.
Everyone, but no, I agree. I agree with what Brian's saying. All I have to say is that as a penalty taker, I still assume that they will all make their penalties. That is my default. So whenever a goalkeeper saves it is surprising to me. So
really? I can't believe you would say that, Jorginho boy over there.
I know, that's why it was even more devastating when it happened twice. That's my take on it. So we'll see what happens.
Perhaps Chiro should have been taking all the penalties for Italy.
No, only for Lazio.
Shit.
Only for Lazio. Only a certain kind of.
He looks focused for the Italians for me.
He's taking home the match ball in my photo. So. Anyway, final thing, we wanted to do a quick moment of silence for Gio Reyna, another hamstring injury for him. When I saw this, I saw him crying. I felt bad for him, but also I'm a little worried about him now going forward in terms of injuries. I can't, I'm not a doctor. But I will just say that, if you sprain your ankle once, you're more prone to have it happen again. Is this something that is, now going to be a recurring thing for him with his hamstring? I'm a little worried about that. I don't know what you both think.
You would be worried about that. I am only a little bit worried. Sometimes you see this with young players. Sometimes they have these. Even Messi, when he was young, he had some injury issues. Pulisic has gone through his. Hopefully those aren't going to resurface again. I think you've got he's 18 years old or 19, whatever he is. So I'm not ready to start panicking just yet.
Yeah. That might surprise you, but that run at the Azteca, it got me like more hyped up than Ousmane Dembele, honestly.
Whoa.
Wow.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
We're gonna
like
clip that.
the stuff that he's able to do, that shows you the game IQ. And like how he was able to trick and do everything in the book using feints, body feints, roulette, but yeah, in terms of the injury, so apparently he's going through like a little bit like similarly to Messi, like a growth spur. Like when you look at his body mass back to last year Nations League, he looked like a kid, and now it looked a little bit more like a man.
He's huge.
Yeah, and that also comes with like growing your muscles and all that stuff. But to me, that also comes to like you have to. You're not a player that can play every 3 days. You can play once a week or every 7 days, or you only play the big games, or you're only a super sub. He's definitely at first. Then after you go into like playing 90 minutes and you need to manage your minutes. Some players you need to manage your minutes, and that's what has been happening with Pulisic now. Like he plays halftime, and also because of rotation, and Cousin Greg did manage his minutes. But I would say like in Costa Rica, maybe you shouldn't have played him. So I'm not too injured, especially at night. It's end of the season. The only thing is like now to see is like, unfortunately for the US men's national team, he should probably not show up for Nations League. He should take the 3 months to re-athletize himself, plus take some vacation, because next season will be tough. There won't be any breaks. Champions League games will happen more quickly. There won't be any breaks middle of the week, as it will be jam-packed. Some league will start a week earlier. So, and you will have to regain his spot. And one thing that he showed is that it sounds like the whole locker room really likes him. And he has so much talent, and he's not even 20 exactly. So it takes his time, and probably, unfortunately, not show up for the Nations League. I was dying to see him, and I won't see him until like August or September. And well, that's better for the World Cup. So not too worried so far, but
yeah, Chris, we nothing to be worried about. Colburn's just a bit of a worry ward. I think he's already starting to fret to see if we're going to qualify for the 2030 World Cup. So
I'm worried about the 2050 World Cup for us. So I need those unborn babies to get their calisthenics in. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see about Gio Reyna, and hopefully he'll be back soon. We're wishing him the best. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in. This is the Supersub Pod. You can find us on YouTube, where this episode will be, as well as Instagram and TikTok. Thank you all for listening. We'll be back next week with another episode to discuss Champions League football. Brian and Chris, thanks for joining. Have a great night. Thanks,
ciao,
everyone.
ciao.
ciao.